Just after midnight, on the 26th of September 1983, a siren goes off in a bunker south of Moscow. On the screen in front of Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov, one word is lit up. Launch. He has minutes. Maybe less. Everything he has been trained to do says pick up the phone and pass it up the chain. And the chain at that moment ends with a man who is convinced America is about to kill him. Petrov is 44 years old. He is an engineer, not a career officer. And in the next few minutes, he is going to break the one rule the entire system was built around. To understand what Petrov did, you have to understand what year it was. 1983 was the closest the Cold War came to going hot after Cuba, not because of one crisis, but because of a slow accumulation of them. 2 years earlier, Soviet intelligence had launched Operation Ryan, the largest peacetime intelligence operation in Soviet history. Its purpose was singular: to detect the signs that America was preparing a surprise nuclear first strike. Think about what that means. The KGB was not asking whether the attack would come. It was asking agents to watch for the signs that it already had begun. When you build a machine to find evidence of something, the machine finds evidence. Then, on the 1st of September, 25 days before Petrov's shift, Soviet fighters shot down Korean Airlines Flight 007 over the Sea of Japan. 269 people died, including an American congressman. The world called it murder. Moscow believed it had been a spy plane, and that the outrage was a pretext. Both sides were now certain the other was capable of anything. And into that, the Americans were about to place Pershing II missiles in West Germany, weapons that could reach Moscow in under 10 minutes. 10 minutes is not enough time to think. It is barely enough time to react. Soviet doctrine adapted to that math. It was called launch on warning. If the system said missiles were coming, you did not wait to be hit. You fired back while they were still in the air. That was the doctrine sitting behind Petrov's chair. The system was called OCO, the Eye, a constellation of satellites in long looping orbits, watching the American missile fields from an angle, looking not straight down, but across, so that a rocket rising from Montana or North Dakota would appear as a bright plume against the black edge of the Earth. It was new. It had been rushed, and people who worked on it knew its reliability had been questioned before. Petrov knew that better than most because he had helped write the procedures the operators followed. He was not there as a soldier following orders. He was there as one of the engineers who understood how the thing could be wrong. That distinction is the entire story. The first alert says one missile, one intercontinental ballistic missile launched from the United States inbound. Then the system escalates. 2, 3, 4, 5. Everything in the room is telling him this is real. The system has assigned the detection its highest confidence level. Sirens, red screens, 30 people waiting for him to speak. He later said something very ordinary about that moment. I had obviously never imagined that I would ever face that situation. He has to decide right there whether to report it as an attack. He does not report it, and his reasoning is worth slowing down for because it is not intuition. It is analysis, performed under the worst possible conditions. First, the number is wrong. If the United States were launching a genuine first strike, it would not send 5 missiles. It would send hundreds, all at once, specifically to destroy the Soviet ability to answer. 5 missiles is not how you win a nuclear war. 5 missiles is how you guarantee you lose one. Second, he does not trust the machine. He knows the satellite system is young and has been questioned. He knows what it was built to see and what it might mistake for that. Third, nothing else agrees. The Soviet ground radar network should confirm the missiles as they rise over the horizon. Minute after minute, it shows nothing. The satellites are screaming. The radar is silent, so he calls it in as a system malfunction. Not because he knows, because he judges it more likely. There is a detail here that most retellings skip, and it should not be skipped. Accounts still disagree about exactly what he reported and when. Petrov was alone in a room with a decision, and the record we have is largely his own. What is not disputed is the outcome. No warning went up the chain as an attack. And then he waits. Because if he is wrong, he will know in about 20 minutes, when the first warhead lands. Nothing had been launched, nothing at all. It was the autumn equinox. The Sun was sitting at an unusual angle relative to the satellite's orbits and to the missile fields below. High-altitude clouds over North Dakota caught that sunlight and reflected it upward in exactly the spectrum and geometry the system had been taught to read as a rocket motor. The eye saw sunlight on cloud and reported the end of the world. The flaw was real, and it was later corrected by cross-referencing a geostationary satellite that watched from a different angle. But on that night, the correction did not exist. Only Petrov did. Here is the part that should bother you. At first, he was told he had done well. General Yuri Votintsev, who commanded the missile defense units, noted his correct actions and promised a reward. The reward never came. Instead, Petrov was reprimanded, officially for failing to properly document the incident in the war diary. He said later he could not have documented it, because he had a telephone in one hand and the intercom in the other. The real reason was simpler. To reward him, the system would have had to admit the system had failed. Engineers would have had to be blamed. So the incident was buried, and the man in the middle of it was quietly moved to a less sensitive post. He took early retirement in 1984. He had a nervous breakdown, and he told no one, not the press, not his friends. My late wife for 10 years knew nothing about it. The world learned what had happened in 1998, 15 years later, when Votintsev published his memoirs. Journalists found Petrov living on a small pension in a town outside Moscow. If the story ended there, it would be remarkable enough. It does not. 6 weeks after Petrov's shift, between the 7th and 11th of November, NATO ran an exercise called Able Archer 83. It simulated the escalation of a conventional war into a nuclear one, all the way to the highest alert state. It used new communication procedures the Soviets had never observed. Real heads of government were briefed to take part. To an intelligence service already primed by Operation Ryan to look for exactly this, it did not look like practice. Some Soviet units were placed on alert in response. There is still argument about how close that came to something worse. 2 near misses. Same autumn, neither caused by malice, both caused by systems doing precisely what they were designed to do. Petrov never liked being called a hero. Asked about it, he said, "It is nice of them to consider me a hero. I don't know that I am." And more than once, the line he kept returning to, "I was just doing my job." He died on the 19th of May 2017 at home in Fryazino of pneumonia. He was 77, almost no one noticed for months. The uncomfortable lesson is not that one good man saved the world. It is that the system was built so that one man's judgment was the only thing standing between a false reading and a launch, and that the system then punished him for using it. We have not stopped building machines that watch, decide, and escalate faster than people can think. We have built many more of them since. The question Petrov's night leaves behind is not whether the machine will be wrong again. It is whether anyone will be allowed to say so.